You know, guys, we are 2 movies into James Gunn's revitalized and rebooted DC Cinematic Universe. And already, I think that this franchise is in desperate need of a wake-up call. Less of a light slap across the cheek kind of wake-up call, and more of the type of wake-up call that involves you dumping a bucket of ice water on James Gunn, telling him and the rest of his crew to get his act together, otherwise there may not even be a Chapter 2. So far, regardless of what you think of the film, we've had a Superman movie that was marginally successful at the box office, but not as successful as it should have been. And so here we sit in 2026 with the release of Supergirl. 2 projects into DC's Gods and Monsters chapter. Discounting movies apart from this shared universe such as Suicide Squad and Blue Beetle, James Gunn, his creative crew, and the rest of his executives are all wanting this to be a smash hit. So what is James Gunn's course of action to make the Woman of Tomorrow the spark that the DCU so desperately needs to have fans keep coming back for more? Hire a writer who has never worked on a major blockbuster production in her life, deal with multiple script and pacing issues and a constant barrage of reshoots, going through 3 other composers until they finally found one, and have your lead star alienate a chunk of the movie's demographic. So, given that production nightmare, it would come as no surprise to you that the end result that we are last beheld to is about as derivative, boring, and incredibly clunky as we'd all expect it to be. Like the law of Murphy, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. And with this movie on track to losing $125 million, Gunn's future for the DC Universe is about as looking as bleak as a Zack Snyder film. But at least as a director, he's capable of making a better movie than Zack, so to give the devil his due. I know, I couldn't help myself. Based on the Tom King Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow graphic novel that I've never read, it's been many years since Kara Zor-El left her home world of Argo City from the planet Krypton and landed on Earth to see her cousin Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, aka Superman. Kara is traveling throughout the galaxy, indulging in her hedonistic lifestyle, when she comes across a young girl named Ruthie who is set to take revenge on the man who murdered her entire family, Krim, leader of the Brigands, which is a villainous army of space pirates. Despite initially rejecting the offer to aid Ruthie on her quest for vengeance, Kara eventually joins alongside her after Krim poisoned her dog Crypto and is given a timetable of 3 days to live. So it is up to Kara and Ruthie to get the antidote, save Crypto's life, and to strike down retribution on Krim and his entire criminal empire. Now, to be fair, this isn't the first time that the Woman of Tomorrow has made it to the big screen. That honor obviously goes to 1984's Supergirl, which at the time was trying to cash in on the popularity of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and had, of all people to star in it, accomplished actors such as Peter O'Toole and Faye Dunaway. It was touted as the worst Superman movie of that time, until, 3 years later when Superman 4 Quest for Peace premiered, stole that title, and wore it like a champ. Over 40 years later, Hollywood and the DC Universe has given Supergirl a second chance. And right from Act 1, this movie's screenplay already has a grocery list of problems. For one thing, the dialogue. Never mind the tedious, underwritten jokes, quips, and comebacks from the protagonists, or repetitive, stilted declarations for actress Eve Ripley as Ruthie to spew. There's nothing more ill-conceived about this movie's dialogue than its use of exposition. Rather than trust the audience to understand what the motives of the villains are, why they're here, what something does, etc. through the more reliable method of visual storytelling, the film has to have characters constantly explain the plot, because how else is the film gonna connect to the low attention span having spectators who all they do is look through their phone every 2 minutes? Speaking of which, point number 2. It astonishes me that James Gunn would go out of his way to hire someone as inexperienced in Hollywood screenwriting as Ana Noguera, who's only for writing a couple of stage plays and having a very minor supporting role in Vampire Diaries, to take charge into writing a major blockbuster script. Because everything about this final draft, the one that James Gunn chose, screams amateur in every facet possible. An easy explanation is just noticing how convenient everything in the story plays out. So let me lay this down for you. Crypto gets poisoned. Kara's ship is stolen by Krim. Crypto is given 3 days to live. Sounds simple, right? But Here's the problem. She has no other information or ways to track him down. Kara is going to be scouring throughout the galaxy to find a guy that she doesn't even know or have any leads to. Sounds like our leading ladies are in a little bit of a pickle, right? Leave it to the writer to magically summon space bandits to rob passengers on a space bus that Kara and Ruthie just so happen to be on. And after Kara is sucked out of the space bus airlock, the planet's orbit is just fast enough for Kara to regain her strength through the yellow sun so she can defeat all of the space bandits who also happen to have information regarding Krim and the Brigands. Give it up for the filmmakers who found a way to facilitate the next hour and 15 minutes of this movie. Speaking of padding out the runtime, the next time Kara and Ruthie come across Krim, for reasons that make no sense whatsoever, Krim has the antidote tied around his neck. It's not like he could have just not brought the antidote with him, or God forbid, not made the antidote at all. But by God, Krypto needs to live in the next movie, so have Krim tie the antidote around his neck. But if you have the antidote around Krim's neck, can't Supergirl just, grab it? Isn't she the female equivalent of Superman, faster than a speeding bullet and all? Can't she just take Krim by surprise, pummel him, snatch the antidote, defeat the Brigands, and save the lives of so many people? No, we can't make the writer do that because that will just end the movie faster. Point 3. The third issue with this plot is that the power scaling is all over the place. The film showcases 3 suns in total. A yellow sun which empowers her and heal her wounds similar to that of Clark Kent, a red sun in which her powers are ineffective, and a green sun which has the stellar mass combined with the substance of kryptonite, which of course to any Kryptonian is life-threatening. Apart from the yellow sun, the film cannot decide how her powers are affected by either of the 2 remaining suns. In the first act of the movie, she's at a space bar, and at a certain point, she gets into a fight and overpowers an alien dude 3 times her size, despite the fact that the planet the bar is on is underneath a red sun, which means she shouldn't be more powerful than that of an ordinary human being. How is she able to do this? You tell me, James Gunn. The final act even takes place on a planet with 2 suns in it. A yellow sun, and a green sun. The only reason why there are 2 suns on this particular planet that she's been dropped off at by a bunch of space smugglers is that it's specifically designed so that when the heroes are awaiting their demise, the yellow sun can rise up at a convenient time so Kara can turn the tide and save everyone, even though she should have been dead minutes ago. And I think it's about time that we talk about the characters. Nobody is really bad in this movie per se. I mean, most of the actors do a quite serviceable job, but Ana Nogueira's screenplay and Craig Gillespie's direction don't do the actors any favors. Millie Alcock provides a fine performance as James Gunn's hedonistic, confident party girl interpretation of Supergirl, but whatever she can bring to the table is compromised by characterization that is not even consistent as far as morality goes. The biggest problem with her character is that the film throws in this hollow, half-ass attempt at the revenge bad theme at the second act low point. Kara tells Ruthie something along the lines of, killing him will not bring your family back, and doing so will have an effect on you for the rest of your life. The problem? We have no idea where this is coming from. We have no clue as to why Kara holds this perspective, what made her change her outlook and develop a revenge is bad argument to bring up to someone like Ruthie. What the film could have done is highlight the fact that Ruthie's drive for vengeance is only gonna get her and other people killed, and that she needs to focus on the bigger picture. And you know what? I don't even think that Ruthie killing Krim would affect her in any way, seeing how this is the same monster who murdered her entire family, and that she can also defeat him in the name of justice for this criminal empire that he built, which is built entirely off of sex trafficking. The worst thing about all of this is that Ruthie was about to land the killing blow, a surprise attack that would have finished off Krim for good, and doing so would have saved a life and many others. But then Kara denies her revenge by stopping her from killing Krim, and then lectures her about revenge being bad, not because Ruthie was in a position where she was going to die. The script doesn't even do a good job of having both Ruthie and Kara bounce off one another to develop a very convincing unlikely friendship. You may have your typical back and forths and conversations about how much each of the character has lost something, but none of the actors are given proper development from the filmmakers or direction to make their chemistry genuine. On top of that, Ruthie is kind of pointless. There really isn't a segment in the movie where Ruthie is finally gonna get her time to shine. And even in certain pivotal moments where you think the film is finally going to commit and that she's gonna stand out on her own and prove herself to everyone, some of the decisions she makes are so unbelievably frivolous in the aftermath that all it does is make you ask, what did she even accomplish by doing that? Crim of the Yellow Hills is supremely a very boring, one-dimensional villain, and despite his villainous scheme being one of the more diabolical ones we've seen in DC movies, apart from villains who want to take over the world because evil, the filmmaker's direction for how Matthias Schoenaerts should approach his character and lines and how he goes about his plan, it makes it impossible for Crim to be taken seriously. The movie also establishes for a brief moment that Crim has superhuman strength, which could be a problem for Supergirl until the creative team just kind of forgot that he had these abilities, and it just doesn't pay off in the long run. On the flip side, we finally get to have our cinematic portrayal of Lobo. And what better pitch-perfect casting than Jason Momoa? He fits his Aqua Bro mannerisms in Lobo much better than he ever did in his portrayal as Aqua Bro. Braggadocious, self-assured, machismo-driven. But for how good and charismatic Jason Momoa is as Lobo, the disappointing news is that Lobo in this film is more of a plot device than a character. His involvement is solely to occasionally pop in to help out Kara for whenever the script needs him to be there at the time. And when Lobo engages in his heroics as an anti-hero contract killer, it's kind of distracting how he handles situations, such as him trying to save containers full of innocent girls that are tied to brigand spaceships that are multiple stories high. He cuts the cables with his chain hook, and the containers full of innocent girls plummet and hit the ground so hard that you would be surprised that the girls are not turned into mush. Speaking of mush, the Enterprise is so muted and toned down compared to its previous entry. Whereas Superman was saturated in a bright, vibrant color palette, the film has an unpleasant gray and brownish filter that makes the entire look of the planets and locations so grotesque to look at. The film may get a few points for utilizing practical costumes for the otherworldly citizens and aliens that our heroes meet, but the CGI compositing for Kara flying through the air gives you less of the impression that she is a soaring Kryptonian, and more so that Millie Alcock is strapped with harnesses and wires in front of a blue screen set. The action scenes are weightless, trite, have no sense of tension, or in any way memorable. And if you're a fan of one-shot takes, the film manages to suck the life out of them. Whereas cinematographers such as Emmanuel Lubensky were able to ace that trick with ease with movies like Gravity and Children of Men, which is one of the best movies ever made, which, by the way, click here to watch the video. There was so much careful attention to detail, concentration, and peerless, precise choreography that went into those shots. You felt like those one-shot takes were an art form. In this movie, you can obviously tell that these shots were all stitched together, making them not even as remotely impressive as ones who have done it before to perfection. And I usually don't talk about the soundtrack a lot unless it is really, really good or really, really atrocious. But when the final climax commences, there is a particular needle drop that apparently took the creative team 45 songs to go through in order to find the definitive song for this payoff to work. And of all the songs, they choose this awful cover of Jimmy Eat World's The Middle, done by a girl band. And for a brief moment, when I was watching the climax in all of its hideous slow-mo, speed-up, slow-mo glory, it gave me Vietnam flashbacks to Sucker Punch. You do not want to remind me of Sucker Punch. There's no other way to put this. Supergirl is super bad. We may have to wait and see if Clayface turns out to be good, but with a movie that has struggled so much during production, combined with the insipid, callous direction, and writing from such an inexperienced mind who desperately needs to take more notes, Supergirl face plants harder than any meteorite on the Earth's mantle, standing as a bad specimen for this DC universe. My name is Luke Nukem, and you, my friends, have been blown away